Hello there, my lovely darklings. It's your favorite Shamila Anahata back with another video. And today I'm here to talk about my metal journey, how I got into metal, what kind of metal I like, basically just where I started and where I am now. I have no notes, I have no script, so let's just get started. So I basically got into metal when I was around 12 or 13 years old. I was pretty young, I was in middle school, and I didn't even understand what it was. I didn't understand what was in me that liked it, or even where it came from genetically, because I knew that once I heard it, this was me. This was everything I'm into. So I was probably 12 or 13, and it was around the time where new metal was popping. This was probably like the early thousands, maybe 2005, 2004, 2005, where System of a Down was super popping. The first song I heard from System of a Down was Hypnotize on like MTV or something like that, and as soon as I heard that song, I was absolutely hooked. I'm not even necessarily a new metal fan, even though I would consider them really more experimental or alternative metal. I definitely loved what I heard. I loved their sound. I loved how heavy it was to me at the time. I loved that they were very unique in their own ways and talked about sticking it to the system and all those types of things. But if I can backtrack a little further, I just want to say that growing up in my household, we listened to everything. Of course, as a black family in the US, we listened to soul, R&B, old school type things, old school hip hop, even the hip hop and the rap at the time. We were all about that. But my dad, which I'm so grateful for, was a huge Jimi Hendrix fan, still is to this day. And he was also into Cream and Yes and classic rock and all those types of things. And he was also into jazz and basically things that were considered old school for him. So he was very eclectic with his music taste. Always listening to reggae on certain times, always listening to classic rock on another day, maybe listening to jazz on another day. Like, it was just never the same thing over and over again. It wasn't just soul and R&B, which I absolutely loved as well. But we just had a different type of vibe growing up. And my mom had her interest too, but my dad's was very pronounced. So we just kind of vibed to whatever my dad was listening to. So him listening to that, I could just tell that I was really into classic rock. I love the sound of it. Of course love Jimi Hendrix, how could you not? So getting older and getting into middle school and listening to things on MTV and just being around the burnouts in school sometimes and being around other people who were probably more on the rocky side, on the rockery side, really helped me to open my mind up to those things, that it's not weird, that I know I like it and that I should explore it. So once I listened to System of a Down, once I listened to that song Hypnotize, I bought the album, I went deep into it, I did research on them, I did research on people in their genre, I looked up prog metal, basically System of a Down was the moment that I decided, yes, I love metal and I want to explore deeper into this. And of course, as I said before, it wasn't the total start of it. My dad listening to Jimi Hendrix definitely got me more into Black Sabbath, which got me onto Iron Maiden, which got me into AC/DC, and it really just kind of went from there. So I would say that my upbringing really did help. Listening to classic rock, especially proto metal, what I would call it, and System of a Down was just that switch that I really needed to come on in order for me to really delve deep into this amazing, deep, fantastic, dark genre. So very shortly after System of a Down, once again, I started listening to whatever I looked up, really. Anything that sounded interesting to me, because I looked up AOL Music. Does anyone remember that? On AOL Music, I looked up System of a Down, and they gave you different types of bands and options like that, and other links to the bands, and just suggestions, and I looked at them all. And at that point, I understood my taste. And in those AOL Music suggestions, it had Opeth and Cannibal Corpse and even things like Bullet for My Valentine and other bands that are within the genre but just had their own subgenres in the genre. That's the one thing that makes me so happy about metal, is just that it's not the same thing. It's of course the umbrella of amazing things, but with metal, there's just something for everybody within these subgenres. If you're into horror, you're probably gonna want to go towards death metal. If you're into, darkness and witchery and satanic stuff, you can go into black metal. If you're into upbeat, epic sounding music, you can go into power metal. If you like that slow, ambient, like eerie type sound, you can go into doom metal. There is just something for everybody, I feel, within the metal subgenres. So I basically did my best to explore as much as possible. And luckily I didn't just stop there. I also got into punk rock, hardcore. I even listened to metalcore and even some forms of deathcore. I just wanted to explore rock in general. And I'm so glad that I did get a lot of my roots and I got a lot of what I enjoy out of metal from listening to punk and hardcore growing up. Definitely listening to Bad Brains, of course, Pennywise, Gorilla Biscuits, great bands like that that really shaped how I see metal, especially since metal and punk as well and hardcore are so wild. They just allow you to just be yourself. You can like whip your head around, you can bang into people, and it's all in respect, it's all in fun, it's all in expressing yourself and expressing your anger and your disdain for not only just being oppressed or just how you feel in life. Like, life can be frustrating sometimes. There are a lot of things in our life that we cannot control. There's a lot of things in our lives that make us angry, especially when it comes to marginalization and, you know, people telling us that we can't do things that we want to do. And punk, hardcore, metal, all that says, like, screw that. Do what you want to do. Express yourself to your fullest. Be angry if you want to. Let yourself release that. And then in the next moment, you can be cool again. And that's why I relate so much to metal, because it just makes me feel like I can be my wild, carefree, unhinged, and uninhibited self. It just feels so good, especially since if you fall down in a metal show, if you're in the pit, you fall down, people pick you back up. If you run into somebody, they'll most likely say sorry. There's just so much respect within that community when you go to a show. You just can't even be mad at people. We're just all here for the same thing, to rock out, commune, and have a great time. So that's basically my past, getting into the metal at the time, allowing it to let me explore different things, not only just metal, but punk and hardcore as well. And then all through high school, that was basically what transformed me into not only just listening to metal a lot and punk as well, but getting into death metal. So I would say in 9th grade, that was like a phase where I was definitely listening to metalcore and the music at the time, a lot of deathcore, a lot of just proggy type things. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was 9th grade or the early beginning of 10th grade, but either way, I listened to Cannibal Corpse for the first time. I was probably 14 or 15. And it was all over from there. I didn't really understand what death metal was, but once I listened to Cannibal Corpse, I was absolutely hooked. My favorite song at the time, and even probably still my favorite song from them, was I Come Blood. I listened to that song at least almost every day all through high school. It just made me want to go outside and just whip my head around and just push somebody and just, it just made you feel so, once again, very wild. I loved it. And so once I got into that, I listened to other bands. I started getting more into the Black Dahlia Murder, Waking the Cadaver, and any type of band that was really hip during the time. And of course, it developed from there all through high school. I was the Burnout. I was a part of the group of like punks or goths or whatever in school. And I'm so happy that it was never a phase, because a lot of people like to tell you things like this are a phase, because you know when you're born with it. And I'm very grateful that I was. Such a blessing. And of course, in high school, I didn't want to fit in. I've never cared about fitting in. I don't have an inauthentic bone in my body, very gratefully. But towards the end of high school, I kind of just wanted to be a normie a little bit. I didn't really explore as much as I wanted to. And going into college, I didn't either, especially going to an HBCU, where realistically most of the people listen to soul, R&B, hip-hop, rap, whatever, no judgment. I just kind of wanted to get my studies over with, so I didn't really think about music, which makes me really sad as somebody who played music my whole life. I played clarinet from the time I was 9 till probably like my early 20s when I was in college, and sadly I stopped playing clarinet in order to focus on my studies while at the same time basically working full-time. So I didn't really focus on music for a long time, knowing deep down that music made me happy. Regardless of the genre, it made me like light up inside. It gave me a lot of joy and pleasure. And it was something that I definitely did neglect of myself. I neglected myself from listening to. Probably out of maybe anxiety, maybe some sort of bouts of depression, but really when I'm thinking about it, it was really just to survive. So I can't say that I was deep into my metalheadness at the time, but not even very recently, but probably within the last 5 or 6 years, now that I'm 30, and within my mid 20s, now that I was able to focus more on what brought me joy instead of just wanting to work my fingers down to the bone, I reawakened, luckily with the help of my boo and a lot of my other friends, and just listening to my intuition and allowing myself to just be. I reawakened the part of myself that was really into metal, punk, hardcore, all the type of genres that made me feel like me. And of course other genres as well. I listen to basically everything. However, those are the ones that are very prominent in my life because it just, ugh, it's just in my DNA. So I would say probably within the last 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit more, I started listening more to old school death metal, exploring that. And let me tell you, that was something that I kind of wish I learned about back when I was in high school because that would have definitely changed a lot of things for me. I'm still grateful that I learned about it when I did. But yes, I started listening more to old school death metal. I listened to Death, Incantation, Morbid Angel, Suffocation, all those types of old school bands. And it really grew from there. I started listening more to black and death metal. I got more into war metal as of late. I'm definitely a fan of war metal at this moment. And I'll get into the bands in another video, but basically metal, what it means to me is just freedom. It's expressing your darkness. It's allowing yourself to be wild. It's allowing yourself to commune around other people who feel the same way. There is just nothing serious about it. It doesn't have to be that serious. Some people make it more violent than others. However, it is just all about it's different for everybody, but I really do feel like it's all about expressing your wild side, expressing your darkness, just not letting anyone tell you what to do, allowing yourself to just be. And it might look violent, especially when you are in a metal show, understandable, especially if you're somebody who doesn't frequent those types of things. But let me tell you, people will once again pick you right back up if they push you down. If they see that you're hurt, they will come to your aid. If you drop something on the floor, somebody will try to help you look for it. It's just, it really is a community aspect because when you run into a metalhead, when you see somebody with a band tee, or when you go to a metal show and see someone that you want to talk to and be friends with, you know that there is no better feeling than seeing that because you feel like you're not alone. Liking metal, even though it has grown in popularity over the past few years, it's still a rarity to see somebody who's really into that life and not just assuming that everyone just listens to metal when they're a metalhead, because I'm assuming that we listen to everything, we really do. But when you see a metalhead, you get excited about it. You're like, yes, you're into what I'm into, or if not, you at least understand my vibe. So yes, loving metal and being a part of the community, it is such a beautiful thing. Of course, there are violent aspects to it that some people like to partake in, and I'm not about that life. However, at its core, it's really all about feeling liberated, free, wild, unhinged, and just authentic. And I wouldn't change it for anything in the world because you're either born it or you grow into it. Either way, it is an absolutely beautiful lifestyle and I recommend it to everyone. We've now reached the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know, are you a fellow metalhead? If so, what is your story and what are your favorite bands? Let me know down in the comments down below, and be sure to give this video a like, subscribe for more content, and follow me on Instagram at the Soulful Veganista. Much love, and until next time, my lovely darklings. Bye-bye.